This is going to be a short video on how to load georeferenced USGS topographic maps into Google Earth. So for this example, we're going to be using, trying to use a USGS map to locate the original location of the old Pleasant Valley School on Bull Creek. So I recommend starting out with Google Maps. We're going to be in Google Earth eventually, but start out in Google Maps. And you've got to have some general idea of the area you're looking for. So in this case, we're going to be looking, we know, at the intersection of 2222 and 360. So I've got Google Maps up. I'm going to right click. I'm going to get the lat long for that location. So then the next thing we want to do is go to the USGS Topo View web page. And you see here, you're going to start zoomed out to all of North America. We're going to go up here to location, and we're going to, remember we copy and pasted the lat long. We're just going to paste that in, hit the search button, and then it's going to drop a pin on that location. Then if we look over to the right, we see all the different maps, georeferenced maps that cover that area. So we can go all the way back to 1896. In this case, I know that the school's not on there. It was around then, but I don't think it's on there. But in general, the further back, when you go back to any of these from the 1896 and their derivatives, 1910, etc., the georeferencing is off just a little bit usually because they're based on old, surveys from the 1900s, so they're off a little bit. So if you do wind up using a map from that period, they're going to be close, but you may have to do a little tweaking. So in this particular case, I know that Lib 360 was built in the 70s, and the school was moved then. So I'm going to go to a 1959 copy, USGS map. So when you open it up here, one of the things you can do is hit Show. And indeed, when I look at the map here, I can, right there's where our pin was we dropped. And right there's Pleasant Valley School. Okay. Also in 1959, we've still got Camp Tom Wooten. The Boy Scout camp is out here. This is the courtyard now. We've got Cat Mountain. Bull Creek Road, today's 2222, back then was called Bull Creek Road. So this is the map we want to download and import into Google Earth. So we go over here. You have a number of choices. I'm going to recommend that you use GeoTIFF. So we're going to click on GeoTIFF, and if we look up here, we see that it's downloading a zip file. Okay, we let that complete. So what I want to do now is I'm going to drag that zip file onto my desktop. So now we want to unpack that zip file. I'm going to do that here. Put it on the desktop. And it opens up the file, and what you're looking for is the TIFF file in here. It's got to be the TIFF file. And I'm going to drag that onto my desktop. So now we've got the georeferenced map that we want to load. There it is, right there. So the next thing to do is to start up Google Earth. Okay, so I've started up Google Earth. What I'm going to do is you can actually drag and drop it in, but in this particular case, actually hold that thought for a second. Before you actually bring it in, what you want to do is to go up here. Remember, we copied the lat long of the area that we were interested in. We're going to paste that into Google Earth. We're going to search for that location. All right. And there it is in Google Earth, right? Why we're doing that will be obvious here in just a second. So now we're ready with that pin in place. We're going to come up here to File, Import. So again, what I did was I changed that to search for geotiff files. There's the file we want. I select it and I say Open. So what it's going to do is pop up this dialog box that says, hey, that's a big file. What do you want to do? So your choices are to create a super overlay, which will be a detailed map of the whole thing. But doing that creates a bunch of folders. It's a heavyweight process. Probably don't want to do that. The other option is to scale, which will create the full map at a lower resolution. Again, not really what we want to do. What I recommend doing is to crop. You're going to get a smaller area, but you can repeatedly re-import that file and every time crop a new area. So kind of make a mosaic of the areas you're interested in. So that's the reason we wanted that pin. So what we're going to say is crop, and it's going to say, all right, where do you want me to put the crop at? So the little pointer there, we put it right on the pin that we had previously. It imports the data, and you can't see it, but it has loaded in the map right there. I'm going to go ahead and close this now. When you import that, usually it will put the geotiff, the crop geotiff down here in temporary files. Sometimes it winds up in other areas. You just kind of have to look for it. But in this case, we've got it right down here. So what we're going to want to do is the whole idea here is to see, well, first of all, let's, so down here in Google Earth, you're going to want to click on the image, select it, which we have. Then there's a fade, there's an adjust opacity button here. And we're going to do that. And it brings up a slider. And if you look, we can slide in and out like that. And we can check that with the more modern 1959, 60, 70, maps created then are generally spot on georeferenced. And you can see here, for example, Bull Creek Road. Okay, keep an eye on this. It tracks Bull Creek Road really well. Same with City Park Road here. Spot on. You can see the river lines up nicely. Bull Creek entrance, the mouth of Bull Creek lines up. So again, in general, if you're working with a modern map, they're gonna import perfectly. If you're dealing with something from the 19th century that was surveyed in the 19th century, you may have to do some tweaking, or it may be, it may be close enough to work from as is. So what we're wanting to do here is I'm going to close this. So generally the whole idea is here is to having loaded in a georeferenced map, historic map, to locate that on today's landscape. So what I'm going to do is go up here to the ruler, and I like using circles. And here's the school. We're just going to create a circle around the school. Save that. Here we'll say Pleasant Valley School in 1959. Close that. And you notice it put the place marker down there. I've got the circle around there. So now all we got to do is to, again, select the file, and we're going to remove that. So now we see where the school was previously located with a fairly high degree of accuracy. Just interestingly, so this is the location of the school today. So when they built Loop 360, they moved it off and moved it over here. So again, we can do this similar kind of thing going the other direction. Previously, we were starting with the USGS from 59, and then identifying a location on today's landscape. But we can also do the other thing. That is, I'm going to put a circle around that. Call that the school location today. Again, it added it down there. Then we want to go back up to the map, and this time increase the opacity. And as it turns out, there wasn't a heck of a lot there in 1959, but that's where the school is. So then we can say, hey, well, hey, how far did they move it? We'll keep it in miles. So from here, they moved it. Come on. So you can see they moved it just a little over 2/10 of a mile due east from the original location. So that's it. That is how you find something on the current landscape using the old georeferenced USGS maps.